Hey everyone, E-Wink here, and today I would like to talk to you about a movie that is older than most of my coworkers. It came out in 1994, and its name is Star Trek Generations. And you might be thinking to yourself, Aaron, why the hell are you going off on this? And to answer your question, because I have the day off and I have nothing better to do, I have a blog post, and yes, I have a blog, but I just never update it anymore. And back in 2014, when the movie was only 20 years old, I made a post about one of the most infuriating scenes in all of Star Trek, at least in my opinion. And that was the destruction of the Enterprise D at the end of this movie. So today, I'm basically going to make a video about that blog post. Now, don't worry, I won't be on camera. I'm still working on trying to make a little set for myself to do some of these videos. Hopefully you saw my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze video, and you kind of realize the kind of videos I make now. So first and foremost, let me go ahead and say, I don't hate this movie, all right? It's a decent movie, albeit an incredibly stupid one. It's probably, I'm not going to say the stupidest of the Trek movies, because obviously that's Star Trek V of the original series movies, but it is a dumb movie, although it is incredibly entertaining most of the time.
Remove the plaque!
But this one scene, well, it's not one scene, it's a group of scenes, just drove me nuts because of how wrong it is. And we're not even going to go into some of the other dumb ideas about this movie, like Picard being able to find Kirk in the Nexus, or the idea that the only way Soren had to get into the Nexus is by blowing up a star. Or the whole fact that when Picard comes out of the Nexus, he goes to find Kirk instead of just going back in time and arresting Soren while he was in 10 forward. So, you know, there's a lot of plot holes in that, but there's always plot holes in time travel stuff, like why the fuck did Marty McFly only give himself 11 minutes to save Doc Brown at the end of the first Back to the Future? So let's get things started by setting the stage for this particular series of events that makes me insane. A Klingon bird of prey commanded by the sisters Lursa and Betor. You know, those were two Next Generation villains, so it was kind of cool seeing them. Anyway, they and Soren, who is the main antagonist of the movie, kidnap Geordi. Basically, they do a prisoner swap with Geordi back to the Enterprise in order to let Picard go to the planet and try to convince Soren not to blow up the star, because there's a planet in the system that has a ton of people on it and they'll all die. Picard goes down to the planet and he asks, he tries to talk Soren into things. It doesn't go well, and TLDR, eventually Soren blows up the star, which then sends Picard into the Nexus. But we'll get to that. Here's where things go wrong for me with this series of events. Before he's returned to the Enterprise, Geordi's visor is tampered with by Soren to transmit images from the ship, from the Enterprise over to the bird of prey. Here's what happens. Geordi beams back to the ship and he collapses and taken to sickbay. My blog post has several points, and here's one of them. Geordi goes back to work way too soon. This guy he was kidnapped, he was assaulted, he was tortured by Soren. He was completely unconscious when he came back, and yet he is just expected to go back to work. He's patched up, then goes to take a shower, wander around aimlessly long enough to frustrate the two Klingons, and then just goes back to engineering like nothing happened. Like, there's no medical leave in Star Trek, apparently, because I would think he has PTSD from the torture from Soren. I know the medical technology in this era is great, but is he really okay enough to go straight back to work without even like a day off? I mean, like, here's the thing. If Starfleet had regulations that said, if you've been kidnapped, you don't get to go back to work until you're evaluated by a Star Trek psychiatrist, and that would completely have blown Lursen Bator's plans just to hell. So the second point is that they have technology on the ship that lets them know where you are at all times. They have technology to let them know when an unauthorized person beams down. Why do they not have the technology to know that there is a 4K signal being transmitted from the ship to the Klingons? That is just crazy. That's crazy. I mean, it's just, they got so many people on the bridge just wandering around whose whole job it is to watch for these things, and they don't see it. Like, what the hell? Nonsense. So anyway, point 3 is basically there's no OPSEC on the Enterprise. Geordi goes into engineering and he's walking around looking at things, and he looks at a console that has the fucking shield modulation right out on the open. Can you imagine that? It's like putting the sysadmin root user password on a Post-it note sitting on the freaking computer core. That is nonsense. That stuff is not out in the open. That is one of the most vitally important pieces of information on the Enterprise. You do not put that out in the open, period. And there's also a zoom and enhance cliche. So, sorry. Anyway, so the Klingons, then they adjust the frequency of their torpedoes to pass through the Enterprise's shields. Except, what frequency? Torpedoes don't have a frequency. Torpedoes are giant chunks of metal that slam into other giant chunks of metal and explode. Okay, you can change the frequency of the phasers. Like if they had used their disruptor cannons to do damage to the Enterprise, then that would make sense. But a torpedo does not. A torpedo should have just hit the shields, and then that would have been nonsense. Now, the Enterprise pretty much just sits there and takes it. Here's what happens. Worf, who has a chair for some reason, he's like,
"They have found a way to penetrate our shields."
And Riker says,
"Lock phasers and return fire."
But considering they penetrated the shields, the first thing they should have done is remodulate the shield frequency. And all of a sudden, now you're done. Unless Geordi's standing there staring at the frequency modulation thing and just giving them the new frequency modulation, it's stupid. It was very stupid of them not to immediately remodulate the shields. Nonsense. Let's watch this. So a bird of prey disruptor shot nails the port side of the drive section of the Enterprise, and the starboard side of the bridge explodes. This is not a new point by any means. If you're even slightly interested in these film theory type things about Star Trek, like one of the biggest questions in all of Star Trek history is, why the fuck does so much stuff explode? I mean, is there C4 storage behind that panel? I just left. None of it makes sense. None of it. So many people die because of Starfleet-related negligence throughout all of Star Trek. It's just, I don't know how Starfleet still exists as an entity. Riker has Deanna.
"Deanna, take the helm!"
The ship's counselor start to drive. Now, I know because of the episode Disaster, she took bridge officer training courses and stuff, and she's technically a commander, but she's not in the chain of command. And I don't know if taking bridge officer training courses teaches you how to drive the ship, especially in a horrible situation. I get that everybody else was already killed by the freaking unnecessary explosion, but I don't know. There's nobody else that they could have called, like, we need a spare helmsman. Holy shit. Although, in my blog post, I do make a very cute quirk about Riker knowing that Deanna can drive a stick shift. So again, I mentioned we get to see that Worf has a chair again. And it just cracks me up because he spent 7 seasons standing at that console. And then the day they decide to destroy the Enterprise, they give him a chair. Hilarious. But anyway, yeah, why does that back wall explode? And if you look really close, you can actually see the wires pulling on the guy, throwing him over the console. That's funny. So they somehow make the bird of prey cloak itself. And so while it's going into cloak mode, its shields drop. And Riker makes his angry face and says,
Fire.
The torpedo, which was, they were only supposed to have 2 seconds of vulnerability. The torpedo takes 13 seconds to get to the bird of prey. That's a very slow torpedo. They were not that far apart from each other. And also, Worf was told to fire a spread, but he only fired one. So, yeah, that's why he got sent to Deep Space Nine and why his wife was killed by the pod race. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. So, Soren and Picard banter for a little bit, but now we have the problem with the fact that the damage from the bird of prey is causing wholly bad damage. And one of the bad damages is a coolant leak. I always say, a coolant leak is bad. I mean, it was bad for my Chevy Malibu, so I only have to imagine it's bad for the Enterprise D. They apparently have no way to stop the coolant leak. This was in 1994, so that sticky tape that you can just slap on water pouring out and it stops everything, that doesn't exist yet. But yeah, there's nothing that can, there's stuff that can stop hull breaches, like force shields and stuff, but apparently not coolant leaks. So, yeah, there's nothing they can do. And so they're like, there's no way to, we'll get to this, but there's no way to eject the warp core, I guess. Somebody told me it's because they mentioned it, that the warp core ejection thing doesn't work. If that is true, why is that true? That does not sound like something that should be true. That is like the most important safety feature on the ship. I mean, that's like a nuclear reactor not having a control rod in it. If you don't know what that is, it basically stops the nuclear fission from happening. And can you imagine if a nuclear reactor, you tell it it's going out of control and you tell it, oh, do the control rod, and bloop, it says, no, I can't do that. It's broken. I don't know why. It's just broken. It's nonsense. Apparently, if you're still with me here, you're in this for the long haul. So let's talk about the evacuation of the drive section. So Riker tells Deanna, who, remember, is driving the ship, to begin evacuations. Why the fuck is he telling her? Tell Worf. That's a security job, not a helmsman job. Given his previous screw-ups, maybe he'd only evacuate one person instead of everybody. So they're starting to move everybody from the drive section, and there's just a ton of children who should not be in the fucking drive section. That's not where the families live. The families live in the saucer section. So none of these people should need to be evacuated. They should all already be in the saucer section. The drive section is probably where your, ensigns and, the familyless people, and then like all the engineers, maybe they live down there, and the enlisted crew members that you never actually see, but they have to exist. They're the ones who all live in the drive section. None of the children. Also, Beverly starts evacuating fucking sick bay. Sick bay is in the saucer section. It is in the saucer section. No reason to evacuate because they don't know that they're going to crash into the planet yet. So there's no reason to go hide anywhere. Geordi says the core is going to breach in 5 minutes. And so Commander Riker sets the separation timer for 5 minutes. What the fuck is he doing? I don't know. And then Geordi comes through a Jeffries tube, aka fancy space ladder, and says, oh, it's all evacuated. And I'm like, okay, I guess you know that for a fact. Good for you. The drive section goes kablooey. It just goes kablooey way faster than 5 minutes, but whatever. Saucer section got away, kinda. So now let's talk about the crash for a second. First off, ILM is fucking amazing. Like, this is done with practical effects with the model. This is pre-CGI. It's the last Star Trek movie that was done with models instead of CGI. And it's a beautiful scene. It's done so well. So if I was CinemaSins, I'd give them sins off here. So as they crash, more stuff explodes. But here's the most infuriating thing about the crash. Glass breaks. Starships do not have glass windows. They have transparent aluminum windows, which are metal, that is transparent. They do not have glass windows. There is no glass that should be shattering and falling on these poor idiots who left sickbay despite sickbay being in the saucer section. There's also fire, and apparently nobody has a goddamn fire extinguisher. And then the glass at the top of the fridge, it's broken, even though, like I said before, it's not glass. And so that's that. That's my gripe with the crash and that whole sequence leading up to it. I know this video was long, and I apologize for that, but you probably haven't watched this far anyway, so it's all good. But if you didn't mind it, watch my Ninja Turtle thing. The little card is up in the top, I think, if I know how to do those right. I also made a video of Megumin from Konosuba, basically blowing up starships, which was fun to do. And that should be up there too now.
If you like this video, let me know. If you didn't like it, don't let me know. Actually, let me know anyway if you didn't like it. That would be fun. God bless you. Have a nice day, and see you next time. Boy, this is super creepy, isn't it? Just wait till I have an anime girl voice.